All right, so let's get your reaction then to some of the day's developments, especially at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, and get the perspective of different stakeholders when it comes to this conversation. Professor Kwandiwe Kondlo is with the Department of Politics at the University of Johannesburg. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time today. Firstly, your own impressions of today's proceedings at the Zondo Commission.
Well, I think the proceedings at the commission were very thorough, and Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo is a very careful person. He goes to the details, and he's actually spelled out very clearly what the commission intends to do. But of course, it's going to be the decision of the court whether to impose a fine or incarcerate Mr. Zuma in prison.
One of the things that we saw was the Deputy Chief Justice speaking to the issue of rights that has been raised by the former president, who says that he feels his right to having a fair process through the legal system has basically been taken away from him. Does the argument that the Chief Justice made, that he's been given opportunity at every point that there have been legal cases to make his case, in some of those representations, and in the Constitutional Court, his lawyers simply didn't make any representations, and therefore it's hard for him to then turn around and say that he doesn't abide by the finding of that court?
Yes, I fully agree with the Deputy Chief Justice. Mr. Zuma has been accorded every opportunity. A lot of fairness actually has been displayed in the process. And Mr. Zuma's defiance, in my view, it actually shows that he's actually run out of options, legally and also strategically. His defiance, it basically symbolizes the nakedness of shame, because the kind of scandals that have been unearthed during the various presentations by witnesses at the commission actually create a mountain for him to climb and respond to. So the best way to do really is just to defy and not go to the commission.
Speaking on the issue of the defiance, the evidence leader, Advocate Pretoria, said earlier on in the day that his defiance and the reasons for not appearing, some of them seem to go beyond the terms of reference of the commission, and he said they may also be political. Are we getting to a point where part of what needs to happen here, if the former president is going to appear before the Zondo Commission, that might rest with what the ANC does?
Well, in my view, I think this matter is in the hands of the law. And if I were the leaders of the ANC, I would actually leave it like that. Because once really you throw certain political considerations and sympathies into this, it really compromises the integrity of the work of this commission.
And in terms of being seen to be equal before the law, this is for all South Africans. What is the importance of there being follow through with every single process of the law?
I think that is very important, you see, especially to demonstrate the fact that you really cannot separate constitutionalism from democracy. Constitutionalism and democracy are actually co-original, as they both talk to the will, the wishes, and equal opinion of all citizens.
How seriously should the country be taking some of the threats that have been made by those who are supporters of former President Jacob Zuma and who are saying that they're prepared to defend him? Even in the case of arrest, they're prepared to have confrontations with the police if that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, but that actually talks to the cracks you are finding in the ruling ANC. there are serious divisions there. And I would actually argue that the divisions were not born out of Nazareth. The divisions can actually be traced as far back as the Polokwane Conference in 2008. So you still find within the ANC this rhetoric of armed struggle and militancy. A rhetoric you actually notice is still prevalent amongst many ANC members. And Mr. Zuma is actually exploiting that, because a divided ANC is actually a weak ANC. A strong ANC would have actually taken him to task long ago. Mr. Zuma deserves to have appeared before a disciplinary hearing long ago. But the ANC, because of its internal divisions, has not been able to do that. That is what Mr. Zuma is exploiting right now, the militancy of former MK veterans that you see. It's as though they can wage a war. There is no war they are going to wage. You see, South Africa is not on the brink of civil war because of Mr. Zuma. You see, that is not going to happen, actually. The country is so stable, and the rule of law is still solid in South Africa.
One of the things that we see come out, in particular of the statements that the former president has sent, is that, you know, the decisions that he's taking them because he enjoys support. Now, is there any real way of telling the amount of support that the former president enjoys on the ground, and how much of that will result in a rising up effectively of the forces should he be arrested?
I don't think there'll ever be any rising up of the forces. Yes, of course, you do find these, should I say, factions, small groups scattered all over the country. In Northwest and in Gauteng, for instance, you'll find all these groups. But some people who are part of these groups are just there for their own personal benefit, or to pay back some of the favors they got from the Zuma faction at a certain point. But the support for Mr. Zuma is not as strong as it was before. It is actually slowly dwindling, because remember, this support was not based on any ideological position, which Mr. Zuma really championed, but it was based on opportunities, the jobs, the networks that people enjoyed because of belonging to Mr. Zuma's faction.
All right.
As time goes, we're actually going to see very clearly that the support he has enjoyed has actually waned and gotten very small.
Professor Kwandiwe Kondlo is with the Department of Politics at the University of Johannesburg. Let me thank you so much for your time on The Pulse tonight.